That's better. That's what we were missing. So back in 2018-19 at a Ducati planning meeting, probably over a bit of pasta, a bit of pizza, maybe a glass of wine, the Ducati engineer came up with the idea and said, why don't we take the 1299 Panigale, which was the most powerful twin ever made at the time, just as it was going out of fashion and into the V4 era. They said, why don't we take the 1299 Panigale, chop it in half and make a mono? And here we are, the Hypermotard 698 mono.
This all-new Hyper is the first single pot that Ducati has produced since the Supermono 550 some 30 years ago. They also made it very clear in the press presentation that they were pitching the 698 mono directly against the Austrian 690/701 models. With 77.5 brake horsepower, a super short stroke and a red line of 10,250 RPM, Ducati claims the highest peak power among these single-cylinder entries, and it wins the highest revving competition too. It uses the same piston, combustion chamber, Desmo system and titanium valves as the 1299 Panigale, which obviously matters down the pub. And then there's the Gucci electronics package, which includes a drift ABS feature that allows the pilot to skid the rear into turns without fear of corner entry high sides. Plus there's a similar wheelie control system that gently prevents looping out while pulling big mingers. So, which half of the 1299 is it? Pani or Gali? We went to the International Cartodromo Lucas Guerrero kart track in Valencia to find out.
Unfortunately, it's wet. It's a wetty. We're just trying to figure out whether to do wets or road tyres. There's a few out there now just testing the conditions, but what a shite. Well, so we are going out to do some sighting laps. Still wet, but we're going to go out on the road tyres and hopefully scrub the circuit. Well, of course, it's real world conditions. You know, we've got wets at our disposal if it gets really wet. We've got slicks. Hey! What a wanker! Grease balls. I'm going to go foot down for the moment because that is oh yeah, he said about this corner. Yeah, foot down for the moment because it just feels safer. It's quite dry-ish. Yeah. And we're in wet mode, obviously, because it's wet. Oh, this clutch is really nice and light. I think of previous Ducatis, and obviously got the hydraulic clutch, they tend to get a bit heavy sometimes. But this is like one finger job. They didn't even need a kick cato, just little one finger. This is a bike that can do so much, so many naughty things. And yet we're pootling around on road tyres looking like absolute knobs. That was like going into a strip club and not being able to touch anything. Actually, Chad just said then he was watching that last session, and he said it was like a fast CBT.
I just put the traction control in 4, but when you are riding, if you want,
yeah,
you have more slide, you all push this
okay,
back and forth.
Okay, cool.
But start with 4 is better.
Oh, it's sort of dry, wetty shit in between. I'll tell you what, is one thing we are testing today. It's the traction control and the ABS. And I've got to say, the traction control, like any Ducatis, is pretty damn good. Oh, the ABS is so nice through there. Doesn't intrude too much, but there's enough of a just a feeling that lets the rear slide out a little bit. We're in setting 3, which allows a little bit of slide. You can't really trust it. The ABS, that is. Whoa, fuck, you know. Whee! See, the TC caught it. I mean, even at these sketchy speeds, it does handle, it does fill you with confidence. It definitely doesn't feel as hard hitting as the Austrian bikes. This has got more peak power by a little bit, but the Austrian bikes definitely have got more torque. I mean, this is definitely smoother, which is no bad thing.
As the track dried out during luncheon, Ducati engineers were busy fitting slick tyres to the RVE version, which cost nearly £1 more for these fancy graphics, and you get a quick shifter and blipper thrown in. These bikes also had the optional race kit fitted, which takes power to 84 brake horsepower and ensures the RVE weighs less than the standard bike's 151 kilos.
Oh, RVE with some Stevie Nicks. Oh, look at those Stevie Nicks. Cheers, driver. Right, so the RVE is a little bit more expensive than the stocker, but I'm looking forward to a dryish track. Oh, that's a bit better. Oh, she's coming around a treat then. Hey, man, this is fun. This is what grip feels like. I mean, it is very smooth. I left the bloody wheelie control on, and I what a twat. Surprisingly, ground clearance is decent as well. Right, so we can ride it properly now with some anti-wheelie off. If you've got it, flaunt it, but anti-wheelie should not be on a supermoto. That's and I get, you know, it does help you to go faster some ways, but nah, not for blooming supermotos, motards. Woo! Yeah, baby! That's better. That's what we were missing. Oh, no apexes were harmed in the making of that corner. No doubt about it, this thing handles better than any Austrian bike, but you know, may have more peak power, but it's not as hard hitting in the mid-range, that's for sure. It is easier to ride, it's very smooth. The fueling is delicious all through the rev range. Rest for days. Oh, bumpy. This thing with the pipe on is naughty. The feeling from the front end of this bike is so much more premium than the Austrian bikes, that's for sure. More weight, better feeling, very, very nice. Oh, we're getting a rhythm now, we're in the zone. What a workout. I'm sweating my nuts off. Oh, mental rain. Mental rain. Ugh. Whoa. Shit. Well, what have we learned today, kids? Well, we've learned that the Ducati has the most peak power and the smoothest single cylinder known to man. And probably the best handling in terms of conventional knee down. What I can tell you is, back in the real world, just pootling around, Like I said, the clutch is super light. The brakes are lovely. There's more than enough brakes. Don't think that, you know, just because it's got one disc on the side, that it's trying to be a Hypermotard. There's plenty of power. The suspension feels brilliant. Look, it's a well kitted bike for just over 10 grand. It's just lacking a little bit of pep in the mid-range, should we say. A bit of lariness in the mid-range, but you know, I don't think you're going to notice that when you're wheeling past coppers or robbing banks. Apart from wobbling around in the wet, which I'm really shit at anyway, it was a real test of electronics. And I mentioned it on the helmet cam, but I think one area where this bike has the upper hand over its Austrian sort of rivals is electronics. It's more refined. There's more of them for starters. I mean, look, you can ram your wheelie control up your body, but the rest of the electronics are, like I said, a vast array that will make you faster and safer. So in these wet conditions and damp conditions, I learned a lot. It was pretty decent. Obviously, as the track got dry, you get faster and faster. And I think the biggest takeaway for me today, apart from that engine, which is an absolute banger, is this front end. It feels more conventional than a Supermotard should do, which is, there's no bad thing, because you know they're so niche anyway. Supermotors are so niche anyway that if you can't ride it how you want to ride it, then you're screwed. Anyway, it's the feeling you get with the front end. The feeling you get with the front end anywhere in the middle of a corner, anywhere in the corner, is so much more natural and intuitive than the Austrian bikes, which there's nothing wrong with that at all. Again, I mentioned it on the vlog. It lacks that kind of hard-hitting, sort of meaty mid-range of the Austrian bikes, but obviously makes up for it. I mean, there's not a lot in it. I'm not going to sit here and say that the Ducati is much harder at the top and faster at the top end. There's not a lot in it, but once you get this thing singing in the top end, this is where it belongs. Meanwhile, back in the real world, of course, we didn't get to ride it on the road, but back in the real world, it is a cinch to ride. It's a piece of piss to ride. And I've got to say, low speed etiquette is beautiful. The clutch is really nice, the throttle, the fueling is miles better than the Austrian bikes, but low speed riding, absolutely no problem at all. Now the price, the stock bike is nearly 11 grand, so 10.8 something, and the RVE is nearly 12 grand. So there's not a lot in it for the price, but having said that, the bike we rode today with the full system and the other sort of Gucci bits on it, that is nearly 15 grand. So you're then sort of looking at V2 and other bikes for that kind of money. So it is 15 grand Supermotard. It is a little bit on the steep side, but as a base package, you know, this is now one of the cheapest Ducatis. Forget your scramblers, along with the Monster. This is now the cheapest Ducati in the range. And they said in the press briefing they're trying to encourage younger riders to come along. And this right here, why wouldn't you want that?
If wheelie waving horsepower and high speeds is your thing, the Hyper 698 definitely isn't your thing. However, if smiles per hour and flick it like a bogey handling is on top of your shopping list, this potent mono is the perfect fit. This certainly isn't a 450 racing supermoto, but they don't sell anyway. It is a wide bike around the gusset, so hanging off knee down feels a bit forced, but most of these bikes will never see a kart track. That said, one of these at Cadwell Park would be hilarious fun. There's no doubt this bike packs copious amounts of hilarity into its diminutive stature. The only real issue with the new Hypermotard isn't with the bike itself, it's finding the right environment to exploit its skills and fun factor. Most of these bikes will be used for back road skullduggery, and it will make the perfect urban terrorist.